All right, for more on this, I'd like to bring in Jonathan Ervine, who joins me now live from Bangor in the UK. He is a senior lecturer and the head of modern languages at Bangor University. Jonathan, good to have you on the show. Before the 2017 elections, Emmanuel Macron was a political outsider. Now that he's won re-election, how do you think his next 5 years will compare to the first?
I think that he's still going to face a number of challenges. We're in quite an unpredictable context due to a number of domestic and international issues, whether that's Ukraine, whether that's the COVID situation. And crucially, we've also got legislative elections where France elects its MPs to its lower house of parliament on the 12th and 19th of June. The outcomes of those elections will dictate the extent to which Macron is enabled to bring in the sort of second-term policies that were alluded to in your report just now.
Jonathan, I want to ask you about that because pretty much every presidential contender on Sunday night, speaking after the exit polls were announced, crafted their words to say that the parliamentary elections were their next target. I mean, with a bigger than expected margin for Macron, how do you think the country is going to into these elections in a couple of months?
Still uncertainty, because I think that quite a large proportion of the people who voted for Macron, they are not necessarily enthusiastic and loyal supporters of Macron, his party, and what he stands for. A significant proportion of the people who voted for Macron yesterday were people who were voting against Marine Le Pen as much as they were voting for Emmanuel Macron.
What happens if he isn't able to get a majority here?
Well, that certainly wouldn't be unprecedented. In France, this is a situation that's referred to as a cohabitation, where we have a prime minister of one political tendency and a president of another political trend. This creates a more complicated situation to do with division of powers. It makes it harder for a president to implement all the policies that they may wish. There have been times when there have been disputes about who has control of what. For example, in the period when Lionel Jospin was a left-wing prime minister and France in Jacques Chirac had a right-wing president. And that is one of a number of potential outcomes following next month's or June's legislative elections in France.
Okay, when you look at the last 5 elections, voter turnout has been steadily decreasing from sort of like the lower 80s and now to the lower 70s. What do you think is behind this voter apathy, or is it strategic voting and wanting to abstain?
I think it's a range of complex factors. The mainstream political parties are struggling. They're struggling to create a vision that is engaging the French people. They are struggling to identify strong leaders that the vast majority of people within their party membership can get behind. The first round of this French presidential election was truly catastrophic for both the mainstream centre-left party, the Socialist Party, and the mainstream centre-right party, Les Républicains, which creates a real challenge for them building up to the legislative elections in June.
Jonathan Ervine, thank you very much for joining us here on TRT World. I do appreciate your time and the analysis.